Hi, everyone, and welcome to this session of the PhenoLab. Today, it's my real joy to have with us Professor Susi Ferrarello, which is one of the most eminent phenomenologists in the US, and also I'm very much pleased to say that she is also a dear good friend. Yes. Susi is a philosopher, counselor, and associate professor at California State University, East Bay. Her academic work is rooted in phenomenology and ethics, with a strong interdisciplinary focus on bioethics, mental health, and reproductive care. Trained at the Sorbonne and at the University of Bologna, she holds a PhD in philosophy and a master's degree in human rights and international law. Alongside her academic career, Professor Ferrarello is a certified philosophical counselor working in private practice, where she supports individuals navigating identity transitions, perinatal experiences, and emotional challenges through a non-medicalizing reflective approach. Her applied work informed by deep engagement with existentialism and phenomenological traditions. Susi is the founder of No Bump, No Care, a non-profit initiative offering interdisciplinary support for women during the often overlooked first and fourth trimesters of pregnancy. The project emphasizes lived experience, emotional literacy, and the importance of creating social structures that honor maternal agency and complexity. Susi has authored numerous books and articles, including Phenomenology of Pregnancy and Early Motherhood, The Ethics of Love, and the upcoming Phenomenology in Clinical Practice. Her writing and teaching aim to bridge the gap between philosophical insight and everyday life, with a special attention to care, vulnerability, and transformation. Susi, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for making space for this, Francesca, and thanks all of you for being here today. And I look forward to the upcoming course on perinatal care that PhenoLab is going to host, so that's truly exciting. So today I would like to talk a little bit about this book that has just been published and slowly introduce you to the gist of the book, which will focus mostly on the maternal-fetal relationship. As you can see, the political climate is changing through this time, and I noticed that philosophy has some kind of responsibility in that, meaning we didn't focus enough on, and probably because there weren't enough female philosophers so far, on the ontological status, on the distinction, the difference between being pregnant and being a mother. They were taken as just one phenomenon. And this created the confusion on the status of these two living beings, on this mother and fetus that evolve. So I decided to, for today, to read the gist of my book by focusing on the maternal-fetal relationship. So what are these two? And to what extent they are independent from each other, and what are the consequences of this independence? So the book is small. It's 6 chapters. It was supposed to be more, but they asked me to cut. One more chapter was on technology, which I thought it was useful, but never mind. In the first chapter, I thought it was necessary to give voice to the women. So I asked friends, scholars, colleagues, people I know and people I knew nothing about, to write their stories about becoming a mother and not becoming a mother. So in the first chapter, you will have testimonies of, if you want, successful pregnancies in which everything goes as planned, everything goes fine, or more rocky coming into motherhood, and if anything also into fatherhood, because there are of course same-sex marriages in which the mother is in fact a different gender we might expect from the rigid social categories. And it's interesting to see how these choral stories come together and mend somehow the wounds that each one of us feel in our solitude, because even when we have successful pregnancies, even when everything goes well, a new life comes, and the new life is not just the life of the baby, it's the life of the mother, the father, of the people around. So even when everything goes well, we have to face a mourning phase. We have to come up with this powerful change that brings with itself numerous effects that impact our life. I would love once to just read these stories, actually, because they are very powerful and it's almost impossible to summarize them with words. Yeah, for now, just this. In the second chapter, I focus on breastfeeding, the problem of breastfeeding. No, sorry, the second chapter is on the first trimester. It's provocatively called the no bump, no care ? Because what I noticed is that both the first and the fourth trimester are somewhat a silent trimester. We don't expect to provide care for the woman and the network around her because nothing can be seen. It seems that the woman needs care only when there's a bump showing. So cases of miscarriages, of difficult recoveries, of missed pregnancies and so on are not considered worthy of care. So this second chapter gave birth to this nonprofit I co-founded with my colleague Nicole Miglio, which is called No Bump, No Care, and Francesca and many other great colleagues of mine are part of this network, in which basically we want to provide support for those women and their network who are on this reproductive journey. We don't want to necessarily pathologize, medicalize practical difficulties they are in, but we want to provide a presence, a support through philosophical counseling, law, fitness, sleep consulting, lactation consulting, putting together a team of people that can provide at least a first aid to women who need practical support, because the fourth trimester and the first trimester are as difficult as the others, if anything, more difficult, because both these semesters have the quality of putting us in front of a huge change and tell us, okay, are you ready to face it? What do you expect from it? What is actually going to change for you, and how are you going to face this change? And sometimes we just need truly practical support. While the support is received, it seems mostly focused on depression, postpartum depression, and little else. So if a woman, even the blood work to test iron is not provided in the package of postpartum care. The third chapter is going to be on breastfeeding. So breastfeeding is something that, I don't know, before I became a mother, I thought, oh, what a blessed moment that combines, that reunites the baby and the mother, and everything falls together in a fantastic harmony. Oh my God, I really didn't know what breastfeeding concealed with it. So in this chapter, I really focused on the lights and shadows of breastfeeding, of this full-time job that adds up on the full-time job of caring for the baby, of if you have a job, of caring for your job, your family, and how this embodying this experience can become through a society that again medicalizes the experience and tells you, okay, you have to breastfeed according to these cues and in this way, and you have to be careful about these signals, and so even a very embodied experience like breastfeeding becomes somehow neurotic. The fourth chapter is about the clash of volitions, and this introduces us to the theme we're going to discuss more today. I mean, after all, from already the 22nd week, we are in front of a life that co-lives with our life. And even on a body level, it's not a given that we both want the same thing. Even if you think about nutrients, your body might need, again, iron. And I don't know, you are breastfeeding and it's hard to provide, I don't know, you have the desire to eat lentils and it's really not the right food because it gives gas to your baby. Or your body needs certain nutrients and these nutrients are going to the child because you are pregnant and this child needs to evolve. So at the very organic bodily level, there's already a clash of volitions of what your body would need, would want to survive, and what your baby actually need. And these volitions becomes, of course, more and more complicated as things evolve. I mean, not to mention the need for drinking, especially during breastfeeding. You are always seeking for that glass of water, and that's your basic volition. But yeah, you are you have to hold this baby. The baby maybe fell finally asleep, and you cannot get up and take that water, and you are incredibly thirsty because you need to hydrate. Even the smallest things become hard to achieve in this new relationship because both lives demand important needs that have to be fulfilled in order to survive. Then in the fifth chapter, I focus on the importance of to not make this relationship too ethical, too paradigmatic of how we should behave, because that would have not only the downside of bringing too much responsibility over the woman who is already trying to figure out how to be in this world with this new baby, but also to demonize any mistake, any problem that might rise from the relationship. And the sixth chapter is somewhat circling back with the first one, because yeah, the book was born from the desire to give justice to the pictures, if you want. While I was writing the book, when I started writing the book, and I started when my baby was born, was just a few days old, I came to remember the pictures of the women before me, in the photo albums at the baptism or at the hospital when they were holding their babies. And I remember how far, far away their faces looked. How distant they looked from themselves, how empty somehow their presence was, how different their bodies were, their usual bodies. And so, yeah, in the book, there was always this question that was running in my head: where did they go? Where do we go when this experience leave us through? And do we come back to ourselves after this journey. Where does this journey go? So the sixth chapter is dedicated to trying to understand this journey, trying to understand if we come back, when we come back, or where we go if we decide to leave. So this connects necessarily with the stories that the book tries to tell. If any of you is interested in joining the network or knowing more about the network, please let me know. We are always happy to, connect and making our network bigger to help people going through this journey. Now let's focus on this relationship to try to understand who are we during this journey. Phenomenology put forth some effort to try to make sense of who we are. In the sense that Jung, for example, was one of the first who described the relationship between mother and fetus as a fusion. It's hard to understand where I begin and where this fetus that will become a baby ends. The term fusion, though, is incredibly dangerous because, again, it doesn't create an enough precise description of the role of the, not the role, but really the ontology of the mother and the ontology of this fetus. Again, if we speak about a fusion, then if the mother needs a medical abortion or doesn't feel connected to the baby or is a surrogate, it's as if she's giving herself away as well. It's as if she's denying herself. It becomes really difficult to establish any real rights around one of the two if we see the two as fused with each other. And it's really difficult to provide care to both because, again, there's no clear distinction. Then Kristeva proposed the idea of abjection, from which the other scholar, Creed, in the monstrosity of the woman in her book, presented this abjection of the baby, so the baby that comes out of the woman and rips her apart like an alien. So the idea of alien was fed based on this imagination, this fantasy of what a baby could look like in relation to the woman. And then we have Neumann idea, which is very poetic and beautiful, but still I don't think is enough to describe this relationship of a vessel. So the woman is this kind of vessel that carries the baby to life and then comes back to her life. We wish. It's exactly, it doesn't seem that way. The vessel will change through this journey and hardly ever will come back to how it was. I wonder, and I didn't do this study, even if you do, if you are a surrogate and you just deliver the baby, I wonder if you can come back to the status quo you were before. There's a neurobiological and emotional and practical series of changes that makes very difficult to come back exactly to where you were. So the question is, are we truly two in one? I mean, we have one body and two living beings that develop. Merleau-Ponty, as we know, describes this relationship as what happens in me pass through the other. So there is, in fact, this sense of fusion, this sense of confusion, if you want, of these being together. Yet we cannot avoid seeing how the fetus has its own unique flesh and interacts with the mother body, with the mother's body, with its flesh that is at the beginning just a cluster of cells, and as time comes by, it becomes more and more a proper schema. So I would start from the bodily schema to see how this relationship develops. Jane Limer, for example, talks about a two-way communication, because this little embryo that develops inside you already from the 22nd week, so in the second trimester, already starts developing its own volitions, starts developing habits, patterns that are bodily, and they are their own while connected with the mother. So there's already at the during the second trimester a mutual regulation and an intersubjective sharing of emotions, because the mother feels, even if maybe the kicks are not in, even if you don't properly feel the movements, but start feeling this life that interacts inside her own. And this is palpable through neurobiological transformation, hormonal transformation, functional and structural modification of our brain. Mother's brain goes through incredible changes that will not shrink back, but will keep developing even after the delivery. I mean, we talk about baby brain, which is such an offensive, bearable expression. I really don't like it, that we use to somehow diminish ourselves. I forgot this. Oh yeah, my baby brain, it didn't help me to get through the day. I kept forgetting everything today. It's not a baby brain. I mean, our brain becomes way more powerful than it was before, after and during pregnancy. It changes toward an intersubjective and an interaffective structure, because it has to adapt toward the caring of the baby. So the neural organization of our brain becomes, is known now as experience-dependent plasticity, which means my experience molds itself in a way that it shapes the neural connections of my brain to help the survival of the baby. So the gray matter of my brain actually increases during this time. I create a new structure. My brain creates new structure that will help to enhance my empathy, to enhance the interaffective connection, the bodily resonance between me and the baby. What we experience here is not fusion, is not abstraction, is not an alien that rips our body apart. We experience a development of a strongly embodied intersubjective, interaffective relationship. Our body and the body of the baby changes week by week, day by day, in a way that we both will try to survive and to thrive through the pregnancy. Now, one question that raised a huge debate in perinatal care in feminist studies was, does this interaction, not always they refer to it as an intersubjective interaction, but does this interaction start when the baby is born? Because many believes that, okay, maybe during pregnancy there's not much except these kicks, and then later on the mother will show the baby how to behave in the world. As I was mentioning before, it's still from the 22nd week of gestation, actually, that is possible to detect the constitution of this bodily schema. And it is due to the fact that the fetus might already start developing a proprioception, meaning it might start developing a perception of its own movements. So while touching something different, while connecting with different elements, there is already a response both from the mother and the baby that allows us to, that allows them to perceive their own movements. And as we know from Husserl, as we know from Varela, Maturana, it's Merleau-Ponty, it's thanks to this proprioception that we develop a sense of being. It's not yet a sense of self. We cannot talk about itself, but we can talk about this schema, this bodily pattern that that keeps developing. And connected to that, another very important question was, is the baby then born out of or into the flesh? Meaning, once this baby is born, is the baby thrown in the world? Is the baby given into this world, or it's still part of the mother's body, still part of this flesh? Here, Merleau-Ponty's theory of reversibility comes at end to help us understand how, again, this intersubjective and interaffective relationship works. If, like Lefort, we believe that the baby is out of the flesh, is born out of the flesh, is thrown into this world and part of an external social world, we come to justify the society as it is organized today. Meaning after 3 weeks, the woman comes back to work, the family has to adjust in a way that, okay, the husband most often is the provider, and okay, he needs sleep because he needs to go to work. If the woman is lucky, the woman remains at home for just a few more weeks, taking care of the baby. If she's not lucky, she has to say goodbye to her baby, and she's considered too emotional if she has emotional crisis in saying goodbye to the baby. So our society seems to be organized in such a way that we believe that the baby is born out of the flesh, that the baby is in the society, and once is in the society, is part of the social world, and it will learn from the world how to survive. According to Levine and other scholars, and I'm in this group, I'm certainly part of this latter group, they the family system, because I would put even the secondary caregiver, not just the primary caregiver. The family system becomes an intersubjective, interaffective system that is all necessary to guarantee the development and the survival of this living being. thinking of a society that will teach the baby how to survive without the interaffective embodied experience that the mother and the father, or just a couple, or whoever the primary caregivers are, can provide, means to impoverish the life of this baby from the basic learnings they can get, because a symbiotic relationship starts from which the baby still believes to be connected to that being. The belief of being individual that is so strong in the Western society more than in the Eastern society, of being individual, of being separated from each other, and having to survive from each other, comes from this early belief, from this intrinsic sense of separation that is imposed on us from the very beginning. So in Merleau-Ponty, according to Merleau-Ponty reversibility theory, we are intertwined. There is a chiasm from how the other behaves. I can perceive myself, and vice versa. The baby, for one of the small things, the baby becomes for the mother a chance to revisit her own childhood, to understanding basic functioning of her own body, to renewing ourselves, creating this distance from the very beginning, from for a job, or for trying to financially survive, becomes a sort of an amputation of a limb. I mean, something that is trodden. So in the first months after the birth, so in this fourth trimester, there's a huge, even more afterwards, it's not just the fourth trimester, but in the fourth trimester especially, there's this parable of learning that is very important. We learn to be two in one, if you want. We learn to be this intersubjective unit. We learn to see these intentional trajectories that depart from my body, from my baby's body, and try to be in dialogue or in disagreement sometimes from each other. A new system of awareness starts. And the maternal body plays a crucial role in facilitating the emergence of this self-awareness, not only for the fetus, but even for the new person she will be, the new couple that will start after that, and the new system, that family system that will be created after a new life is added to the present family system. So here I would say bodily resonance, being able to observe how our body resonate through this body in nuce that is about to develop response, is absolutely key to become aware of the new pattern, of the new schema, and to understand how this relationship is building. So even paying attention to little habits, like, I don't know, the nesting activities that happen during pregnancy, or the daydreamings, or the fears that develop, or the little desires that we have and we want to accomplish. Everything speaks about this new life, this new relationship, this new bond, these new identities that are forming. And it's absolutely key to pay attention to these bodily resonant cues. So that's all. These are the basic references I can give you based on this talk. And thank you so much for listening and being here. I look forward to your questions.